So we've shown the Americans, of course, large with the cooperation or sharing of information was quite extensive, and I'm going back to the beginning of our conversation. I am no fan of Israel's government, and I'm going to have, I don't know if easy time discussing with you about Gaza, but easier time than the government because I completely disagree with what they're doing there.
We will get on to that.
On this one, at one point or another, you will have to decide who you trust. So I'm telling you, if you want to know who you trust, Israel or Iran, on this, you should trust Israel.
Let me see if I can approach it this way. Because we talk about trust, and obviously I think we seem to all be agreeing that in order for there to be a long-lasting peace in the Middle East, we need to have a negotiated settlement. It needs to be negotiated, there needs to be a clear agreement with the Iranians, what they can do and what they can't do, and it needs to make sure that it's enforced and enforced clearly. And exactly what comes out of the negotiations is obviously subject to negotiation. But in order for there to be trust, in order for there to be a proper negotiation, there needs to be trust on both sides. And the Iranian ambassador, and I think I should put this to you, essentially said, we agreed to JCPOA, and the Americans walked away from it, egged on by the Israelis, he believes. And then we are in a second lot of negotiations, and in the middle of those negotiations, the Israelis start bombing us when we're going into those negotiations in good faith. And then, I mean, he wasn't here to say this, but I imagine he would now say, and then the Americans say nothing's going to happen for 2 weeks, and within a few days, the Americans are bombing us. So in those circumstances, one could understand that there would be quite a lot of work needed to be done to get the Iranians to be able to trust the Americans and the Israelis if there are to be negotiations. Do you accept that?
I have a problem with the premise, if I may. The Iranians are lying, and the Iranians are doing this using a language and a vocabulary that the Western world is fond of. They are talking about international law while oppressing the young and the women and the LGBT community. They're talking about democracy when they are not a democracy. They're talking about the two sides of this equation, while there are no two sides of an equation. This is a regime we have no problem with that says they want to kill all the Jews because they're Jews, because this is the deep, radical version, twisted version of Islam. I don't think this is Islam. I mean, Islam is something different, but they have twisted Islam into this radical version. But they know that when they're talking into the oldest parliament in the world, they need to say things about their rights and our duty to recognize their side of the story.
Okay.
I don't accept this premise.
Okay. May I take you back to Edward? And then I think Uma's here, so Uma may have some questions for you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lapid. I'm interested in just following on a little bit from the Chair's point and going back to the 5 things that you outlined in terms of what Israel is looking for Iran to agree to. And I'm sort of struck by the fact that having just been bombed by 2 nuclear powers, giving up your nuclear ambitions, wouldn't seem to incentivize the Iranian regime to give up its nuclear ambitions. So I just wonder whether or not you think that it is possible to reach an agreed peace with Iran based on the 5 principles that you outlined, or does there need to be regime change in Iran for Israel to be able to achieve those 5 things?
Well, I've nothing against the idea of a regime change in Iran, but this is for the Iranian people to decide. And I think they are taking into consideration in these past 12 days the fact that they've just realized that billions and billions of dollars were taken from the schools, hospitals, roads, and housing into a nuclear program that disappeared within a week and a half. This is not, but So this is for the Iranian people, a calculation for the Iranian people to make. In terms of the agreement, yes, I think they're going to be forced into this agreement. And I think if we were still trying to play nice and discuss with them what is it they are willing to give, opposite what we are willing to give, what is it that they are willing to do, opposite what kind of pressure the Americans are willing to force, this would have gone nowhere forever as it did before. This is a regime that needs to understand the consequences when they decline the necessary supervision or the necessary terms of a future agreement. Otherwise, they will never do it. It is, I don't want to say things like, you know, they understand only the language of power, because things are always more complicated than this, but we're not far from it.
Thank you. Abdeslam.
Thank you, Mr. Lapid. I'd like to refer you back to an interview that you gave last year, where you said Netanyahu is not working for the country. The only thing he cares about is staying in power. He's for himself. He's lost his soul. Is the endless sort of fight for wars and constant wanting to keep the extended war in Gaza continuous? Is this just an existential fight for survival for Netanyahu?
Well, this is, I feel a bit uncomfortable to discuss this with a foreign, even if friendly parliament, just on a personal note, I am so tired of analyzing his psychological motives. This has become an international game, like they do with President Trump. Basically, when something he's doing is the right thing to do, as he did in Iran, then it's the right thing to do. When something is wrong, like in Gaza, then it's the wrong thing to do. And I can give you an endless list of reasons why is it that I think he's the wrong person to lead the country. But I think you'll understand if I rather do it in Hebrew to the Israeli voters.
Just in relation to the current conflict in Gaza, what do you think should happen to bring the war to an end?
Are we there yet?
I think we're probably there yet. I think we only have 15 minutes, so we've done half an hour in Iran, so let's go on to Gaza.
Okay. Number one, as I said numerous times, including twice this morning, what we need to do is go to an agreement in Gaza, end the war, and bring back the hostages, because this is going nowhere. That raises the question, what needs to be done in Gaza? The plan I presented to the American administrations, I've discussed this with your foreign minister and others, is I think what needs